Welcome back, everybody. Before we get going, I could tell from the analytics that a lot of you watching haven't yet subscribed. So if you like the content that I'm putting out, make sure to subscribe, like the videos that you think are worthwhile to you. Make sure to hit the bell if you want to be notified whenever I put out a new video. It's really going to help grow the channel, and it's going to help us reach more people that are going through that grad school grind. So with that, let's get started with something that is a viewer question, and that is how to write a good and compelling personal statement when you're applying for grad school. Now, this is something that people do not take as seriously as they should. So you have things like your GPA and your GRE score, and those are fine and good, but those are kind of more disqualifiers. And what do I mean by that is they're going to look and say, okay, everyone that has less than a 3.5 GPA, we're not going to look at, and everyone above a 3.5 GPA, we will look at. Now, I'm not sure what the actual cutoff is. It's going to depend on the school and the program. But what I'm trying to get at is somebody with a 3.5 versus a 3.6 in this scenario isn't going to make a difference. It's just used as a cutoff. Things that are going to make a big difference are things like letters of recommendation, personal statement, etc. So the personal statement is really, really important, and it's a way for you to set yourself apart, and it's a way for them to really get to know who you are. So let's get into some of the do's and don'ts of writing a personal statement. This is one I don't want to spend too much time on, and that is following directions. I hope I don't have to go too much into this, but follow the directions. Each place is going to be asking for a different type of personal statement. The length of the personal statement may be different. There may be open-ended questions versus wanting to know specifics about your research experience. Whatever it is, make sure you follow the directions. Nothing screams not qualified for grad school like not being able to follow directions. So that's one of the most important things, and just something I have to mention. The next thing that I think is the most important thing is authenticity, being authentic. You're going to see a lot of people write cliches, which are things that you should not be doing in your personal statement. So a cliche might be something like, I have always loved science. It's always been interesting to me. I want to pursue a career in science because I love science and I want to be able to help patients. And the best way to do that is by doing basic research. That is not what you should be writing. That is totally cliche and something that they're going to read over and over and over and over again, and it does nothing to help you stand out. Everyone applying to grad school likes science in one way or another. Everyone applying to grad school in one way or another wants to be able to help patients. You're not doing anything to differentiate yourself. Don't use those kinds of cliches. Be authentic. And the way that you be authentic is by being very specific with examples and with character traits. So let's talk about each of them really quick. So specific examples would be something like this. I was thinking about going into medicine. That was what I was interested in. And when I was a sophomore in college, I began working in a lab. I actually really liked it. This was the first time I kind of got the experience of doing research. And I remember the first time that I went through, I got data, my experiment worked, and it was exactly what we were hoping was going to be happening. Our hypothesis was right. And I remember that feeling inside of, wow, this is so cool that I solved a new piece of the puzzle. And I was the first person to do it. I was the first person to learn this piece of information. And that feeling was something that I can never replace. And even to this day, I still get excited about a new piece of data, or that feeling of like, yes, like my experiment worked. That's being authentic. That's using an example and saying, this is why I want to go and pursue a career in science. I love that feeling. Character traits is another way that you could come across as authentic. So thinking about some of the other videos that we've put out, or just in your own opinion, what are different things that would make a successful graduate student? Okay, I'm someone that's really hardworking. Okay, that is a good one, but that's kind of cliche. So thinking about something like, I have good perseverance. I understand that everything I do isn't going to work, but I'm someone that's going to continually work to improve on my methodology until it does. I'm not somebody that's going to easily give up. Now that's something that's, in there, what you're doing is you're admitting that, yeah, not every single thing that I do works, but you know what? I don't care. I'll keep doing it until it's right. And I eventually do get it right. And that's the important thing, because that's what happens in science, especially for first year grad students. One of the biggest issues with burnout in first year grad students is there are these perfect straight A students that have everything work for them. And then they go into the lab and things don't work. And they have no idea what to do when that happens. So being able to set yourself apart and say, hey, you know what? That's me. I get it. Not everything in life's going to work, but I'll find a way to make it work. That is going to set yourself apart. So what other kinds of things do you need to make sure that you're doing when you're writing your personal statement? Proofreading, especially if English is not your not your first language. You need to make sure that you proofread and that you have others proofread your work. Especially if you are a native English speaker, that's when you really need someone else to proofread your work, because it's real easy to fall into the trap of saying, well, English is my first language and I know what I'm doing. Well, this is something that's going to help determine, the rest of your career getting into grad school and then what you could do afterwards. So treat it as such. Have your parents, have somebody else that's a classmate, have a significant other or a friend or somebody. You need to have at least one person proofreading. Talk about potential shortcomings is another. So this is your chance where, say you had one semester where your grades kind of faltered. So overall your GPA was pretty good, but you had one semester in there where you didn't do so hot. Talk about why that is. My third semester of my junior year, my mother died. And because of that, my GPA wasn't as good. That obviously did not happen to me. My mother is still alive and well. But as an example, such and such circumstances happen, and that's kind of why I didn't have a stellar semester. But then afterwards, I did bounce back. Another thing that you really should do is talk about career goals. Don't make the mistake of writing your personal statement as if grad school is the end all be all and it's the end of the railroad track, because it's not. What you need to do to set yourself apart is to say, my final goal is to start my own lab. I want to be a PI. I've done research. I've seen what the life of a PI is kind of like as I've been doing this research, and that's the life that I want. That's the career that I want. I want to be able to dedicate myself fully to science. And the vehicle to get there is by starting in grad school. Look at grad school as the beginning, not as the end, because in a lot of ways it is. Okay, I know that you're finishing your undergrad and you look at it as like, this is the next big step, and I get that. But when you look back, and a lot of scientists look back, they actually don't tend to look at undergrad as the beginning. They tend to look at grad school as the beginning. Undergrad is just a continuation of high school and, more learning. But your real, hardcore training starts in grad school, and they look at it as the beginning. So talk about what your career is and how grad school is going to help. And even more so, talk about how this specific department is going to help. If you're applying to a genetics department, say that, I have this interest of one day researching sickle cell anemia, which there's a genetic component to. And so I want to get a deeper understanding of genetics. And that's why I'm really interested in joining this department. That kind of tying it in, specificity, these are things that not a lot of people are going to do. And when you do it, you're going to set yourself apart. So I think we already talked about some of the other types of things that you shouldn't be doing. So things like being generic or cliche, never good. You're not going to stand out. I know we talked about being authentic and not coming off as maybe like a robot, but don't be too laxed, okay? So if you send text messages and you write the letter U instead of writing YOU, don't do that. Don't write ha 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 in your personal statement. You don't want to be too lax. You still need to come off as being professional. Make sure that you avoid potentially controversial topics. You don't want to talk about religion. You don't want to talk about politics. You don't want to talk about personal beliefs that are things that can be seen as controversial, okay? You don't know who's going to be reading your personal statement. It's going to typically be more than one person, and you don't know what their religion is or what their beliefs are. So stay away from that kind of stuff. So I think these are a good place to start in terms of the do's and don'ts. I really hope that you find this video helpful. Remember at the end, this is your first way to set yourself apart from the pack. Make it specific to you, make it authentic. Come off as a genuine person. It's real easy to tell in writing when somebody's being genuine or not. Take the extra time to have somebody proofread your work. Ask them questions as they're reading it. Does this sound like me? An accurate reflection. These are the things that I think are going to go a long way. So with that, I want to thank everyone again for watching. Again, don't forget to subscribe. I know a lot of you aren't subscribed that are watching. Please do. It's going to help keep growing the channel and getting to more folks so we can help them out with their grad school grind and moving on through their postdoc and such. With that, catch you guys in the next one. Bye.